Okay, guys, welcome back. This is your old pal Hondo doing another video for you guys. Now, I don't have some of the stuff that we're going to show you right now to do it, but I will do it at a later time to make a video for this to show you how to do this step by step on how to make your own sulfur matches. Now, what you're seeing in front of you is a website from the BBC of, not to be confused with the other BBC, but British broadcasting website from British Broadcasting Channel. We're doing the history on where the first Strike Everywhere match came from, and this is a Bushcraft video, guys, because what worked back in the old days will work now, and we're gonna get into what we're gonna get into through this other part of the video, but we're going to go through the history of the match, of the Strike Anywhere match, which was a later concept. But there was a match before this one. We'll get into that one later, which is far older than this one and has its roots in ancient Rome. Okay, now right here, as you can see, John Walker was a chemist, in Stockton, in Tees. So he discovered through lucky accident that a stick coated in chemicals burst into flames when scraped across his hearth, wherever that is, at home. He went on to invent the first friction match. Basically, this guy John Walker invented the first Strike Anywhere match, which was in 1826. So this guy invented the modern concept of a match. Basically, Clint Eastwood lighting a cigar in the Old West, you know what I mean, and lighting his cigar up, the Strike Anywhere match. Now, they weren't as common as you think. Even when he did invent matches, they weren't as common as you think, and not everybody used them, but they did use them. They were more used in towns and stuff like that in the Old West in like early Civil War era. They were still using flint and steel kits. So, and most of them didn't use this. They made their own matches out of sulfur. So we're gonna get into the next part of the video. Just giving y'all some history of where the Strike Everywhere match, the modern concept of what you would think of a match, came from, which it was in 1826. And the reason why I think even a Strike Anywhere match is not really good for a survival situation is you cannot make any more of them. Once a Strike Anywhere match or just a kitchen match in general, you use them up, they're done. If you run out of them in a survival situation, you'll have to find another way to make friction fire, and that nobody should be able. Nobody wants to make a friction fire. That is a pain. You got to find the right amount of punky to um, hard wood to make your hearth boards, and you got to find a bearing block. You got to find a really hard piece of type of wood that's good to make a bow drill or a fire piston or whatever. It's a pain in the butt. I've done it before. I don't like it. I mean, you can use hand drills. It's just not my favorite way to make a fire. And I mean, yeah, you should be proficient in it, but you shouldn't rely on it. When you have uh, the modern means to make a fire, like a flint and steel kit, which have, here recently, flint and steels have gotten popular again because of the outdoors community. I remember my grandfather using one. Uh, he used one for years, an old broken piece of file, and he would use it all the time. He used it when he was a kid. It belonged to his dad. It was his dad's broken piece of file that they used to make fires with all the time. I remember going camping with my grandfather and him using a sulfur match that he made with sulfur, because he also made gunpowder too, but he also made his own sulfur matches. And I'm going to show you how to make them here in this video, and you know give you some tips on how to do it and how he used to do it in particular. he used to use an old tobacco tin, like one of those old tobacco tins, and we'll get into that too. But here is the history of the Strike Anywhere match right here, and we'll get into showing you how to make a sulfur match. Okay, guys. Now the concept of making a sulfur match goes back to the Roman times. If you actually look it up, Romans had sulfur mines for a reason, because each Roman would buy a block of sulfur and they would bust it into powder and they would stick it in a small copper or bronze receptacle and put it on a bed of coals and let it liquefy, and then they would dip the tips of pieces of wood in the sulfur on both ends of the stick and to make a sulfur match, because in Roman times they used amadou, and they used amadou powder, and they used a pyrite and a cast iron striker to make fire with amadou. But what they would do is they would take the tip of these little sulfur matches that they would carve out of a piece of wood and dip that in sulfur. Once they liquefied the sulfur in the bed of coals on their fires, is they would blow the amadou into a hotter coal, and they would stick that in the tip of that amadou in the match with the sulfur match, and it would catch flame. It would get like a little white flame, and they would stick it in their fire to start fires. It was a lot easier to do it that way, and it didn't waste as much resources to take that amadou and stick it in a bird's nest and blow it to flame. They did it that way, and they also did it with the sulfur match as well. And what I'm saying is that the sulfur match didn't even die out until like the mid 1800s. A lot of people are bringing the brimstone match back because of this. Like I said, in the field, you could take matches with you, and you could take yourself a bag of sulfur with you. You could buy sulfur anywhere online. You could liquefy it in an Altoids tin. All you need is an Altoids tin. You could take it into your house, put it on your burner on the very lowest setting, and liquefy your sulfur in that Altoids tin, in the deeper part of the Altoids tin, and just dip a toothpick. You don't even need a big piece of wood like this. You could take a toothpick and just dip the tip of your toothpick in there multiple times on both ends, and let it sit out and dry on a paper towel after you're done. And you do this in succession until you get the desired amount of sulfur matches that you need. Now, sulfur dioxide is also another element that they use in gunpowder. So if you have like a high carbon type of charcoal, like you could take a can of like an old paint can and stick a hole in the top of the lid, pull the lid off, and throw a bunch of hickory wood in there, hickory or oak wood, and stick it in a fire and let it char in that can after you put the lid back on it. And it'll literally char that wood and turn it into charcoal. You could use that for cooking too, or you could use that type of charcoal to make forging knives, for blacksmithing. It's the type of high carbon coal that you need in order to make gunpowder, to use it to forge knives, etc. But you could buy the sulfur and saltpeter and make your own charcoal, and you could break those little pieces of wood that you charcoaled in a paint can in the fire with a hole in top of it after 2 hours of charring, and bang it up on a pestle, and bang it into a fine powder, and then mix all three of those together. Like, you got to be pretty precise. You got to 20% saltpeter, 20% sulfur, and 20% of that charcoal, and you mix it up in there together, you wet it down, and you can make yourself gunpowder as well. So you could do that as well. I've done that too myself, but it's a little bit more tedious to make the gunpowder than the sulfur match. I remember my grandfather used to make these. He carried a flint and steel kit with him when he used these, and used it as a match around the deer hunting cabin to light the fireplace up and stuff like that. He had these sitting in in his cabin, you know what I mean? Or he would take him with him in the field when we go hunting. When we would take the pack mules out, and we'd take a couple of these hot tents he had from the military, and he had a little portable, like one of those little portable wood stoves that went in them, and then and a couple of cots, and we go out there camping for like 2 or 3 days from the cabin while we were out hunting for deer in November. You know what I'm saying? Because it would get cold in November, but he always took these with him. Now, as you can see, they make them. There's even sulfur matches, how to make videos. I mean, you could, if you really wanted to, you can go to this how to make video. If you want to make them yourself, you can buy a bag of sulfur. Now you could buy this bag of, chemical sulfur fertilizer. As you can see, there's a match already on it. So you can make your own sulfur matches from this fertilizer. Um, as you can see right here, 90% purely sulfur dioxide. So, you could get this stuff on Amazon for like $24. You know what I'm saying? For a 5 pound bag of this stuff. And you can carry some of this in your survival kits as well, or your get out to go bags, so you can make your own sulfur matches. And you can carry a flint and steel kit with some charred materials, or you could even light this with a small magnification lens on the end of it. If you got a good day out and it's not cloudy, you could take a magnification lens on the end of the sulfur match and light it. So you can get enough sulfur dioxide to make as many matches as you possibly can. And again, making a sulfur match is really, really easy, guys. And it's not hard. And it's an old method of making fire that goes back to the Roman times. You could take like I said, you could take a small Altoids tin, take the lid off of it, stick the deeper part of the Altoids tin with the sulfur in it on your kitchen burner and get it hot. Or you can take it outside. You really want to take it outside. What am I saying? It does send off a chemical, so you may want to do this outside on a small propane burner. Sorry. Take it outside in a ventilated area with a propane burner or an electric burner hooked up to a wall socket outside of your garage or something where it's ventilated out. And you can take like a small, like little apartment like burner outside, like one of those little electric burners, stick it on there and turn it into liquid. And then you take the sticks that you carved in the field, or you can use toothpicks and dip both ends of those in there to make the brimstone match. Now, if you're out in the field and you got this stuff on you, wait till your fire gets down to a bed of coals before you stick your Altoids tin on the bed of coals, because if you do it while the fire is raging and you stick that sulfur in there and that catches fire, it could cause a bigger fire in there, and then you're just going to waste your stuff. So put it on a bed of coals on your fire near a stone or something on the fire. Let the sulfur get down into a liquid. Now, if you don't have toothpicks, you can go and grab some sticks off of a tree. Take the back of your knife with a 90-degree spine and cut it into small little sticks, because you don't want no bark on it when you do this, to dip those sticks into those. And it's just a repeat process. If you run out, you just make more. You run out, you make more. It's a never-ending fire source you guys can utilize in all your kits. Just take a little bag of sulfur, like maybe a quarter of that 5 pound bag of sulfur with you in a small metal match safe that you can, put it in a, waterproof metal match safe and put it in your gear with you to make these sulfur matches on the fly. And then you could store them in a Altoids tin that you use to, turn that into liquid sulfur in the fire, and just restore those in there after you clean that Altoids tin out and store them in there. You know what I'm saying? And just repeat the process when you run out of them. It's a never-ending match, guys. It's basically one of the oldest matches known to man. This predates the modern strike everywhere match. It goes back to Roman times. Our colonial ancestors also put these in their tobacco tins, like their Hudson Bay style tobacco tins with their flint and steels with the tobacco inside them. So they would use these matches to light with, if they got some punk wood that they charred and they light the punk wood with the flint and steel kit. They would get an ember on the punk wood and they would stick that sulfur match in the end of it to light the tip of it so they could light their tobacco in their pipes. So it's a very old concept of the brimstone match, and I think it's a pretty cool concept, and I think it should be utilized in most of your modern day survival kits as well. And it's not hard to do. You can go out and get some toothpicks. You could order this sulfur online for 24 bucks and get 5 pounds of it. You could, if you got like one of those like waterproof match safes, you could put enough of that sulfur chemical in there and screw it up tight and have that in your pack as a way to make these sulfur matches in the field if you run out of real Strike Anywhere matches. It's just a little fun fact of some history on an earlier match before the Strike Anywhere match was ever invented, which was the sulfur match or the brimstone match. This is what George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin, what was his name? Famous inventor back in the day. Famous guy for inventing flying a kite with a key on it, and they even got a $100 bill. Benjamin's, fuck, I can't remember his name. But people of the 17, 16, all the way up to the 1500s used this method, all the way into the Roman times. It's such an old method. It was used for 1,000 years or so. This method was being used and utilized in different various forms of, flint and steel, not flint and steel, but pyrite and iron strikers into the modern era of high carbon steel and flint strikers that was being utilized in between 1,000 to almost 2,000 years. So, this, 1,000 to 2,000 years, this method was being used all the way into the 1800s. And I would probably say my grandfather was using it, so I think they were probably even using this method even in the early 1900s, mid 1800s, and all the way to the modern era. But you're starting to see a resurgence in old techniques, a way of making fire, and this is a really, really old way and technique to make fire, and it's a very interesting and fun little project. If you guys have time, make sure you do this outside though. You could do it on a like one of those little electric burners, and you can run an extension cord outside with your Altoids tin, or you could do it on a bed of coals in the fire with an Altoids tin and some of the sulfur in the Altoids tin to dip the tip of your wood in there, or your toothpicks, or whatever you want to make sulfur matches. Very interesting. I hope you guys like this video on another quirky historical fact of what one of the oldest matches and early history of the Strike Anywhere match for bushcrafting survival. This is also another survival video tip, guys, of how you can make your own matches. If you run out of matches, you can keep a lot of this sulfur on hand to make your own matches, guys, and it don't take much to get them going. With a piece of charred material that you can strike your ferrocerium rods on, or flint and steel kits on. And let me tell you, the flint and steel kit and the ferro rods are the ultimate modern day fire starters, and I think everybody should utilize them in every single kit that you have. Now, there's a lot of bargain ferrocerium rods out there that I think are good, like Nathan 4071s are the best of the best. You got the Swedish Fire Steels, Swedish Light My Fires. You got a bunch of them. You got Coglins. You got just Gerber makes one, Charade makes one. You just got to find what type of ferrocerium rod you guys want to use. I think even Ozark Trail makes one. UTS make one. Or UST Ultimate Survival Tools Company, UST I think makes one. I think Walmart stopped carrying UST, so you have to buy uh, their knockoff version of the Spark Force ferrocerium rods. But I mean, lighters are good too. But you know, the whole old saying, three is better than one type of from the survival mindset, guys. But if you want to make your own uh, matches, this is an ancient way of making a match. This predates pretty much lighters and modern strike anywhere matches from the 1820s. So, this was being utilized 2,000 years ago by Romans as well. The Romans did use friction fires as well. They didn't just use the pyrite and iron flint and steel strikers. They also used friction fires like the fire piston. They used probably hand drills. They probably used a bunch of plethora of ways to make fires, but it is an ancient way of making fire. I mean, Uzi Man, the frozen guy they found in Italy in the Alps, had residue of pyrite, so he was an amadou on him. And the cool thing about Uzi Man that a lot of y'all seem to forget is he was carrying his fire on him. Now he had a little birch bark pouch on him that he made, and he had amadou in there. And what he did was he take a small ember from his fire and throw it on top of that amadou, and that he would just feed it more amadou mushroom or horseshoe mushroom on top of there to keep that fire that ember going slowly, and to get point A to point B to another campsite. It would, you'd have to feed it every 40 minutes or an hour. But by Uzi Man traveling with his fire, he didn't have to constantly look for resources or waste resources to make a fire. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that. I mean, it's like the Apache match. It's sort of a similar thing. But his version was a little birch bark pouch with amadou on it. So, it's pretty cool. It's another way you can carry your fire with you constantly. That way you don't have to waste your resources in the field to make a fire. That's another tip, guys. You could take an old soup can and put 2 holes in it and put a wire in it and stick it full of punkwood and take an ember of your fire and put it in there and put something green on it like leaves or moss, and you could carry your fire with you to your next campsite if you're in a survival situation. That way you don't have to waste your resources, your ferrocerium rods or your flint and steels or whatever. You don't have to waste your resources in the field to start fire after fire after fire, which is the pain in the butt when you already carry it with you. And all you got to do is find a tinder bundle like some grass or some tree bark, and then take that ember out of that carryall, that fire carryall, and stick it into a tinder bundle, blow it to flame, and then Bob's your uncle. There you go again. The sulfur match does the same thing too. So, a lot of I don't see a lot of survivalists do videos about this, and there's some that do and some that don't. This is a very interesting topic that a lot of people don't cover on their survival videos, but this is one of the best ways to make your own matches in the field. And it's just a good way to make more matches if you run out of resources. And it's limitless, really. If you get a big enough bag of sulfur, this is a limitless resource, guys, to make more matches in the field. And all you need to do is, get a piece of charred cloth going and blow that thing until it gets hot with the ember on the tip of that match, and it'll light that thing every single time, and it stays lit a long time. Unlike a regular match, these sulfur matches stay lit a long time if you use a really thick piece of wood. Well, guys, I hope you like this video. It's been kind of long, on how to make your own matches in the field for a survival situation. Give you some ideas, tips, and tricks on how to make your own matches, sulfur matches, or AKA brimstone matches, to pair with your survival kits, or you can carry the sulfur with you in a waterproof container in your get out to go bags to make more of this stuff in the field, so you can make your own matches in the field. So that way, if you run out of matches while you're in an escape and evasion type of situation, you'll have a limitless way to make your own matches to keep your fire resources, so you don't waste more fire resources in order to make a fire. Okay, guys, this has been your old pal Hondo on another survival video. Y'all take it easy. This has been your old pal Hondo from Hillbilly Tactical. You know what you can do. You put God first. He puts you first every time. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Peace out, guys.